Russia is facing a moment that few inside the Kremlin want to name out loud, but the numbers are now too large to ignore. As of this moment, an estimated 100,000 freight trucks across Russia are effectively frozen in place. Some are stalled by new regulatory choke points. Others are immobilized by fuel shortages, payment system failures, or logistics bottlenecks that no longer resolve themselves overnight. Together, they represent something far bigger than traffic congestion or a temporary disruption. They represent a system under strain and a capital city, Moscow, bracing for what comes next. This is not just a story about trucks. This is a story about how modern states function and what happens when the invisible machinery that feeds cities, supplies armies, and stabilizes economies begins to grind to a halt. The scale of the breakdown. To understand why 100,000 trucks matters, you have to understand Russia's geography. Russia is not a compact economy. It is a vast, sprawling landmass dependent on long-distance road transport for food distribution, industrial components, military logistics, energy sector support, and consumer goods flowing into cities. When trucks stop moving in Russia, nothing quickly replaces them. Rail can help, but rail systems are already overburdened. Air freight is limited and expensive, and local production cannot fill nationwide gaps overnight. A disruption at this scale creates cascading effects, not isolated shortages. Rachel Maddow. The paralysis is not caused by one single event. It is the result of multiple pressure points converging at once. Financial and payment disruptions. Sanctions have not only restricted exports, they have fractured internal payment systems. Many logistics companies report delayed payments, frozen accounts, inability to secure insurance or credit, uncertainty over fuel contracts. For independent drivers and small fleet operators, this uncertainty means one thing: they stop moving. Fuel and maintenance bottlenecks. Russia produces energy, but distribution is not immune to disruption. Spare parts for trucks, especially foreign-manufactured vehicles, are increasingly scarce. Maintenance delays turn into immobilization. Fuel price volatility and rationing add another layer of risk. Regulatory pressure and enforcement. New transport regulations, inspections, and digital tracking systems have been introduced at a time when the system is least capable of absorbing them. Drivers face fines, confiscations, bureaucratic delays, route restrictions. Instead of improving efficiency, these measures are slowing movement even further. Why Moscow is nervous. Moscow is not just another city. It is the political, economic, and symbolic heart of Russia. When Moscow experiences shortages or disruptions, the effects are highly visible, politically sensitive, and difficult to control through propaganda alone. The Kremlin understands one basic truth: people tolerate hardship differently when shelves go empty in the capital. Food delays, fuel queues, construction stoppages, and price spikes in Moscow cannot be dismissed as distant problems. They immediately raise questions about competence, control, and stability. The urban supply chain reality. Modern cities operate on just-in-time logistics. Most Moscow supermarkets do not stock weeks of food. Construction sites rely on daily deliveries. Hospitals depend on continuous supply chains for equipment and medicine. When trucks stop, inventories shrink, prices rise, panic buying begins, black markets emerge. This is not speculation. It is a pattern observed globally whenever logistics collapse, from pandemics to wars. Rachel Maddow. Military implications. There is another layer to this crisis that receives less public discussion: the military dimension. Russia's armed forces rely heavily on civilian logistics networks. Fuel, spare parts, food, and construction materials often move through the same channels as commercial goods. A frozen trucking sector slows troop rotations, complicates equipment repair, strains supply routes to border regions. In a prolonged conflict environment, logistics failures matter as much as battlefield losses. Why this moment is different. Russia has faced economic stress before. It has endured sanctions. It has navigated shortages. But this moment is different for 3 reasons. Duration. This is not a short shock. Many of the underlying causes are structural, not temporary. Convergence. Economic pressure, military strain, labor shortages, and political isolation are all peaking at the same time. Visibility. Truck convoys stalled along highways are hard to hide. Empty shelves and rising prices are harder still. The Kremlin's dilemma. The Russian government faces a narrow set of options: subsidize logistics heavily, draining reserves; relax regulations, risking loss of control; redirect military resources, weakening other priorities; suppress information, which only works for so long. Each choice carries costs. None offer a quick fix. Rachel Maddow. Public mood and social stability. Historically, Russians have endured hardship with resilience, but resilience is not infinite. When disruptions affect food, heating, transportation, employment, public patience erodes. Truck drivers themselves are often among the first to protest because they feel pressure immediately. Fuel costs, unpaid wages, fines, and immobilized vehicles translate directly into lost income. A logistics crisis can become a labor crisis, then a social crisis. International consequences. Russia's internal logistics breakdown does not stay internal. Export delays affect energy deliveries, raw materials, agricultural exports. Import disruptions affect manufacturing, technology access, consumer markets. Trading partners notice, markets adjust, confidence declines. What happens next? Several scenarios are possible. Scenario 1. Managed decline. The state intervenes just enough to prevent collapse, but inefficiency becomes permanent. Scenario 2. Escalating disruption. More trucks halt, shortages spread, and emergency measures become routine. Scenario 3. Structural reset. A painful reorganization of logistics and industry, slow, costly, and politically risky. None of these paths are painless. The bigger picture. The frozen trucks are not the crisis. They are the symptom. They reveal fragile supply chains, over-centralized control, economic isolation, a system stretched by war and sanctions. When movement stops in a country this large, it sends a message that no speech or press release can erase. Final thought. Russia's strength has always been measured in territory, resources, and endurance. But modern power is measured in movement, the ability to move goods, people, fuel, and information efficiently and reliably. Right now, 100,000 trucks are not moving, and Moscow knows that when movement stops, consequences follow, not tomorrow, not someday, but sooner than anyone would like to admit.